Lions win the first test as Australia produce a strong finish. My name's Mark, let's talk rugby. Okay, so this is just a quick one to share my initial thoughts on the game. Overall, I felt, first half Lions were excellent, lost a lot of momentum in that second half, but you have to give credit to Australia for that. I thought the Lions, early on in the game, forwards winning the collisions, getting them over the gain line. Australia looked a little bit clueless in terms of how to deal with them and how to get themselves going. I thought, the players who were kind of under pressure in terms of their selection did really well. First of all, Ty Byrne setting the tone for everyone, win that penalty right at the start. And then Curry had an absolutely excellent game. Worried about, he was kind of holding his wrist when he come off. So hopefully he's okay. You saw him on the bench, but they're saying, it's kind of an old injury anyway, so it should be fine. But they got themselves a lead in that first half. The, line out I thought was excellent in the first half. Went downhill, certainly in the second half. The scrum was fairly even. I'd actually give it to Australia over the whole game. Honestly, I thought, Australia certainly come up with the better hits. I think won more penalties at the scrum as well. And I said that in the lead up to the game, that this is not the Australia of kind of 15 years ago or whatever, who were powder puff in the scrum. They're really good scrummagers there, and they proved it in this game as well. And we saw too that both teams looking to use that aerial game. I thought the Lions were very good at it early on. We saw the likes of Keenan and Lowe doing very well. Freeman getting up there to contest as well. But then their first score of the game came from, a very well executed box kick, good length on it. And Jorgensen getting up there, being able to strip the ball from Keenan, as they were coming to ground, and then he got over to score. So that was really good from them, but it didn't really show a pattern of play from Australia where you felt that they were, going to come back into the game. It felt like, a bit of a one-off kind of thing. In the first half, I thought the Lions really on top of the kicking contest. The kicks from 9 and 10, and then from the back three as well, were all on point. But in the second half, they went away from that a bit, and Australia started to dominate. First half, the Lions dominated possession and territory. Second half completely flipped even more towards Australia. Australia with all the ball and all of the territory, and they just started to work their way back in the game. I felt, there were a few times where the Lions defended well, keeping Australia out, and then they got that try, from Sheehan just after half time that gave them that bit of a cushion, and then they maintained that cushion, to the end of the game. And if they hadn't have done, it might have been, a very different finish to the game as well. There was a few times where I felt Australia, could have gotten over, and they didn't. So, it really was, the first half was all the Lions, and the second half was, dominated by Australia as well. So things that, just to say, like the starting pack 1 to 8, I thought were excellent. Halfbacks, absolutely brilliant. Centre partnership went really well. Back three was decent. I thought, maybe Freeman didn't look as good, but, he's still a class operator, and you just need to, if he gets a chance, he's going to score in this series. From the bench, though, very little impact from the Lions from that bench, honestly. I thought Kelleher was poor, the line out. Bunyaki was probably the best of the players coming off the bench. We didn't really see, much impact in terms of, Chesham, not so much when he replaced McCarthy just after half time. Earl, no real impact from him either. The, Porter was giving away penalties in the scrum. Stewart, not brilliant either. So, that's something that definitely going to have to work on there. And again, Marcus Smith, coming on at 10, you don't want to take Russell off in the first place. But yeah, like it was kind of a difficult one coming on from him. But in the opposite side for Australia, I thought Wilson went really well in the back row. So did McRight. Then off the bench, they had good impact in their halfbacks. Who was it? McDermott and Donaldson. Two of them were excellent, and I wouldn't be surprised if they get the nod to start the next test. But young Lina as well. He'll be much better having had his first start too. So whether he's coming off the bench or he starts again next time, he's going to be a better player, for earning his first start for the Wallabies as well, and being in that pressure cooker environment. And the coaches are going to help him through that. So, overall, it's a win for the Lions. You got to be happy with that as a Lions fan and as the Lions coaches as well, but certainly won't be happy with that second half. And, it was a lot closer, I think, than most people thought. Also, just to mention for Australia, Jorgensen was probably one of the most dangerous players on their side. He got the first try, but he looked dangerous all around as well. Totisano as well, coming off the bench, was good from them too. So, yeah, I think, it's a win for the Lions, but definitely a lot for them to work on for next time. And, hopefully we get a close contest next time as well, because, this whole talk that people were talking about 3-0 to the Lions and blah, 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 maybe it still might be, but, as long as you get a decent contest the way we did today, where Australia were in it, it's definitely going to be good for neutrals as well. So overall, again, good win for the Lions, but hope for Australia there.